Welcome to Multifamily Grit, where we bring in the experts to share their stories of the celebrations and struggles of one of the most important industries in the U.S., multifamily property management. Kerri sat down with Stacy Ekholm, Vice President of Operations at Schafer Richardson, a Minneapolis-based real estate investment and development firm known for its mission-driven focus on improving lives and communities. Now celebrating its 30th anniversary, Schafer Richardson sponsors SR Realty Trust, a private REIT with a diversified national portfolio of industrial retail office and multifamily assets, along with robust development construction and property management arms. With more than 25 years of experience across property management, construction, marketing, and technology, Stacy is a powerhouse operator who knows how to scale teams, centralize systems, and align execution with vision. In her current role, she oversees a broad portfolio that spans commercial property management, HR, IT, marketing, PR, admin, and even the company's construction arm. From affordable housing to commercial leasing, she brings a rare ability to connect the dots between residents and tenants while building infrastructure that supports both. Before joining Schafer Richardson, Stacy was COO at Norhart, where she led a vertically integrated $200 million plus construction and management company with everything from international operations to in-house wall panel production. Today, we dig into how Stacy is helping Schafer Richardson enter its next era, why she believes confidence grows from knowing what you don't know, and how she's using her platform to elevate other women in construction and real estate leadership. We'll also unpack why Stacy believes the best teams are built on trust, not ego, and why sometimes being the stupidest person in the room is exactly where you should be. Before we get started, this episode is sponsored by Fortress, the only core property management operating system built with an emphasis for affordable owners and operators. Fortress revolutionizes affordable management with features focused on automating housing assistance charges and payments to keep ledgers clean and accurate, centralizing file reviews and document storage through Fortress and AWS, and a free in-system smart waitlist to ensure your property stays in compliance. And don't forget, if you like what you hear today, please like, subscribe, and share with someone you think would enjoy this episode. Now let's get into it. Here's Kerri Davis sitting down with Stacy Ekholm for a conversation full of practical insights, leadership lessons, and stories you won't want to miss. So Stacy, thank you so much again for being here with me today.
Thank you so much, Kerri. I've had the opportunity to listen to some of the episodes, and I have to say I'm very humbled to be considered as part of the group of leaders in multifamily that you've considered for this podcast. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh my goodness. It's one of the things I've liked so much about you since we first met, your humility. You absolutely deserve to be in that group. But I have had the privilege of meeting with and chatting with some really incredible leaders and operators in our industry. And my conversation with you is no different. So I'm really excited to dig into our conversation today.
Thank you.
And before we dig in though, the question I ask all my guests, I'd love to start with you sharing with our listeners how you got your start in the industry.
Sure. I come from a long line of multifamily operators, but that's not what kicked me off. My dad actually owned a small handyman maintenance property management company when I was younger. My aunt and uncle have done it their whole lives. I had wanted to be an architect, and I was going to school and taking all my classes on intending to go to school to be an architect. And at the last second, when I was supposed to go to college, I panicked at the amount of student loan debt that I would have potentially been signing away. And so I didn't go. And the next best thing that I considered is, I loved architecture. I loved design. I loved housing. I was going to get my real estate license at 18, straight out of high school. I was going to go sell the Sunset back before that was a thing. Quickly learned that all the things that they promise you when they're trying to recruit new realtors is not always shiny and sparkly and glamorous. It's nights and weekends. And a lot of people are scared to trust their largest investment with an 18-year-old out of high school. So I started leasing as a way to supplement my growing real estate business. and quickly fell in love with it and stuck to it, and then just continued to work my way up from a part-time leasing agent to, COO of a company to now the vice president of operations at Schafer Richardson.
That's such a great story, Stacy. And I have to tell you that I am having these conversations with my 14-year-old right now, right? Like he's talking about going to college, and I have done a lot of research on this, and I'm a fairly progressive thinker in general, right or wrong. I'm not saying that's right. It's just
Mm-hmm.
who I am. And, I'm analyzing the cost of higher education versus the really what you're actually giving up during that time, right? It's not just like the cost of the actual institution. It's 4 years of missed work
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. Like it's 4 years of not experiencing real life and like getting out there into the world and doing something like learning sales, which I still say that my first sales job out of school was the job that taught me more about like life and being like an aggressive and passionate professional than any other job I've ever had. And so I think there's so much value in looking at that price tag and saying, you know what, like this isn't for me, right? At least not right now. Like go get into the world and figure out what you want to do first before you commit to a 4-year degree that you might even not end up using.
Yeah, yeah, and ironically, my I have a daughter who's 21. She's going to be 22 in a couple weeks here, and she's in the business. She's a now an assistant manager. She's on entering her third year of being in the business, but she is going to school full time for her business degree. But we had a very specific conversation. She we saved for her whole life, which it would have covered, a small fraction of what she would have paid.
Yeah.
When she was deciding what she wanted to do, she actually looked at the money that was in her account, and she just was like, Mom, I don't want to spend all this money just on school.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there are smarter ways to do this, but you are going. I said, she's like, well, but you didn't. And I said, and I get that, but I worked really hard, and it took a lot of years and grit, and thankfully a lot of great mentors along the way to teach me the things that you could probably learn in those 4 years. I said, but there's still smarter ways to do it. And so she's actually, she went to community college her first 2 years to get her basics, her
Yep.
generals.
Love it.
And then she transferred to a state school, and she's going to finish up her fourth year this year, and she'll have her business administration degree this year. The whole time she's been saving, she's been maxing out her 401k. She opened up a Roth. She bought a brand new car, paid cash for it, but she's been working full time in multifamily. And so she's going to come out of school with 6 figures in a savings account, a degree, and she's have already started investing. So I always encourage people that there's different ways to go about it. The other thing that I really appreciate now that I think is very different than 20 years ago when I decided not to go is a lot of companies are really starting to understand and embrace the importance of
Yep.
experience
Mhm.
and life experience, and that you're not necessarily going to learn those things through books, but that you're going to learn from going through the things that you have to go through to get there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's at Fortress, we removed the requirement for any degree for any position several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't care what someone went to school for, especially, when most of these candidates went to undergrad, like
Mm-hmm.
10, 15 years ago. I don't care
Yeah.
at this point. Like it's just so much more important like what they've been doing. But oh my gosh, your daughter sounds so flipping impressive.
Yeah.
Like that's absolutely incredible.
She's a good kid. She's a good kid. We're very lucky.
Wow, I feel like I need to call you for parenting advice
Well,
in this.
I have another one graduating high school this year, so we'll get to see how it goes doing it all over again. So
I feel like I'm gonna have to have a chat with you in 4 years, or just send my son to you.
yes, yes.
Talk to Stacy.
We always need summer helpers.
There you go. There you go. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really an incredible story knowing that you got into the industry and leasing so long ago, and yet now you have traversed so many different areas of the industry. I mean, where do you think your passion for multifamily comes from?
I think it's just very rooted in, I loved everything about housing. I loved everything from the design to how spaces live and how they look and how they how they interact with Schafer Richardson, our values and our niche is, we're improving lives, improving communities. And I really, really strongly believe that. We have a large footprint in the North Loop of Minneapolis, and we do a lot of historic renovations, but we do new construction as well. And so I still have that opportunity to dive into what I love most, which is space and design and function, and understanding how people are really going to live in those spaces. You have architects and designers and developers that they build buildings, and that's great. But then as operators, you're like, have you considered where the trash bins are going to go?
Yeah.
Have you considered removing those dryers from the public restrooms or paper towel dispensers from the public restrooms, because they're going to end up in the toilet and flooding the hallway? So it was just a great opportunity for me to take all of the things that I loved and put them in one career.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then taking it a step further, so you've moved into this VP operations role at Schafer
Mm-hmm.
Richardson. So actually, I want to take a step back. And what were you doing at Schafer Richardson previously before you were at where you're at today?
So they actually hired me to be their vice president of residential property management, and they brought me on for that. Previously, as you stated in my intro, I was the COO for Norhart. So property management was just a small function of what I did.
Okay.
So it was different for me when I came here. Do I really just want to go back to overseeing property management?
Yeah.
And I was excited about it. Came over, and shortly after my transition, my president and COO let me know that they were going to transition our multifamily portfolio over to a third-party management company.
Oh.
Yes, yeah. So it was shocking, but he's like, just wait, just wait. We have, we knew when we were interviewing you. Yes, yes. Small heart attack first. I think my jaw probably dropped about 20 feet. And it just said, he's like, we knew when we interviewed you that we wanted you for other things, and that this was going to happen. And so we hope you'll consider it. And mentioned to me about the position, and I was very excited about it. I wasn't excited about transitioning our portfolio out of the company, but I was excited to be able to do the other parts of the business that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I'm also the liaison with our fee managed companies. And really, it comes down to scale, right? Like you really need large scale in order for the efficiencies of multifamily to work and work well. And I appreciated that, we understood that we wanted to have our associates have the best experience. We wanted our residents to have the best experience. And we felt by having a strong third party partner to manage our multifamily portfolio was the best decision for our company.
Yeah.
And I fully support that.
Yeah, that's a difficult decision for any company to make. I was actually going to ask you why, but you just shared why. I mean, it's so hard, I think, on either side. When you're a developer and owner, do we manage in-house or do we third-party fee management? And that's a hard decision. And I like you, I have stepped out of running a property management company before, and it's tough because there's so many people in that industry doing so many good things, and you have a lot of impact when you're actually running the property, not just owning it. So I can imagine that was difficult.
Yes, yes.
But they obviously were ready to back it up with a new opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit about more about what you're doing today.
Sure. So as I stated earlier, I am I still have the liaison relationship with our fee managed company. So I still, we have asset managers that directly report with the properties, but I assist with the asset managers. I have 25 plus years experience running properties. So still lend advice, have great relationships with our asset management team.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, I'm overseeing our commercial management. I'm also overseeing our HR, our IT, our admin team, our marketing team, and then I'm also overseeing our construction team, which is really exciting. So, I'm not bored.
No kidding. No kidding. But it's all about having the right team beneath you,
Yes.
right? And then you can accomplish anything. So, and I asked you this question when we first met, and I'm going to ask it again because I'm just so intrigued with this. First of all, almost every construction company I've ever met has been led by a man. Well, that's the first. The second thing is, I think Construction is probably one of those industries where, and there are plenty of others like it. Maybe property management's like it too, but where I feel like it's really hard for an outsider to come in because there's so much like nuanced knowledge about the
Hmm.
industry. So, how has that transition been for you?
Yeah, great question. Well, I'll step back. So Norhart, the construction company, was actually our chief development and construction officer was actually a woman. She's amazing. But when I came over with my new position with Schafer, the vice president of construction now reports to me. He is a man, Matt, and he's great. I also have a former member of our previous company's construction team that reports over to me as well too, and Jack, and is great as well. The biggest thing with them is, I mean, Matt embraces it. We just did an RFP for a really big job that I'm excited about this week. And preparing for that, I will always say, like, I'm this, and we said it in the intro, I'm the stupidest person in the room. Like, I want to know more what this is. Like, if there are things along the way that you feel like it would be great for you to know this or great for you to see this, like, please grab me and bring me in on that. And he has been so open to doing that. He'll be like, I saw you have a break in your schedule. I'm going down to look at this pavement project. Did you want to come with me? It'd be a really good opportunity for you. And I jump all over it. Like, absolutely. I want to know. When we were doing our RFP, I took about 3 or 4 pages of notes. And I said to him, it wasn't so much about the actual process itself, but some of just the things along the way that he was saying that I was learning from him, or that I had questions on that I could ask him about later on. And he's just been very open to helping me learn some of those things that I don't know. I know enough about the business development, what we're looking to do, the basics of construction from my time pursuing architecture and design. And I also do have one up. My husband is an electrician, so I do have that as well too. But
That's nice.
yeah, so they've been great.
That's incredible. So I want to ask, there's a couple of things I want to dig into here actually. Matt sounds amazing.
He is.
And I feel like that sort of partnership and like humility and saying like that, my boss doesn't know half of what I know about what I'm doing. That's rare to come by. And so how do you think, I guess, why do you think you have that with Matt? Is it him? Is it just his personality? Is it you? Is it your relationship? Like maybe it's all three, but why do you think you're able to have that with him? Because I feel like it's probably pretty rare.
I would say I think it's both. I think obviously it's his personality. I would hope that it's part of my personality. I would also hope that it would be the honesty that I'm willing to say I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, and vice versa. I mean,
Yeah.
there's been a couple things that he said to me. He's like, "Oh, I didn't think of that," or "That's great." And so I think we're learning from each other, which is good. But I appreciate that we've been able to have that relationship. I think it will only do more to help us grow our organization and our construction team.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more. It's about having that partnership and that relationship with your team, but fostering it in this environment is not easy. So it's really incredible. But I also think it might lead more into another topic that you brought up, or another phrase that you've used that I absolutely love, but you are intentionally the stupidest person in the room. So what does that mean exactly?
Yes, and so when I say I try to be the stupidest person in the room, I don't think it's necessarily intelligence, right? And I know there's that saying, always be the dumbest person in the room, but I think it's about asking questions and listening and really getting to understand, and but also diving into things, like really going outside of the basics that you need to know, and taking your own time. There's so much that's out there now. Like, we live in an age where you can learn most things on YouTube, or you have Chat GPT and you have AI.
Yeah.
That there's so many things at your fingertips. There's so many resources that are available for you to help you learn and grow in anything that you want to learn and grow from. So I just always try to be curious and just keep asking questions and not being afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah, that is so smart. And I think it goes over so well. I'm always the first person in a meeting with my team to just raise my hand and be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right. And like, I hope by doing that, that it also allows other people to do it,
Yeah.
to have that freedom to just say, like, I don't know either.
Well, and I would hope that as leaders, like we'd have those conversations with people and they'd be excited to teach you, right? Like
Yeah.
I get to teach, this person this, or, for me, I know when I was younger, I would have loved to do that. And I still to this day will be like, oh, did I teach you something today? Like then I made my whole day. I can go home now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so fair. Actually, that's so true. How impactful that is for the person that's sharing. It's like they say, like we more endorphins are released in our bodies when we give than when we receive. And so like having that knowledge that that you've learned something or that someone has learned something from you that day, and just being so open and honest about what we don't know. It's something that I feel like we struggle with, honestly, with younger generations coming
Mhm.
into the professional environment. It's like they feel like if they don't have the answer, they have to make something up, or like they can't say that they don't know, and that that's a sign of weakness. And I hope that's something that we as a culture continue to try to squash, because it it feels like it's like inhibiting, generally
Mhm.
speaking.
I so agree. Yeah, I say that I hear this a lot is, really finding your voice.
Mhm.
And, but also you have to have that safety where you have to feel like it's okay to ask
Yeah.
those questions. But really it comes down to you have to find your own voice, and uncovering and embracing who you are, your beliefs, your perspective, and having the courage to express that with clarity and confidence. And it's not about being the loudest person in the room, but it's about being authentic and consistent and grounded in what matters to you. So
Yeah, that's so well said. And I also think a huge part of that safety that you're talking about, that psychological safety that's created, I think a big part of that is also just knowing like what your leadership expects of you.
mhm.
And what's really interesting, and I really want to dig into, is that you are a fan of traction. I'm
Mhm.
assuming Gino Wickman, and you are in the process of rolling out US. So I'm going to take a step back, actually, and I want to ask you about both of those things. What is traction? What does that mean? And where does that come from?
Sure. So Traction is actually a book, and as you said, it's by Gino Wickman, but it's all about entrepreneurial operating system. So we are rolling it out at Schafer Richardson. We started in January. We had our first meeting with an implementer back in March, so day one. And so some companies choose to self-implement. You can read the books. There's so many materials. There's softwares out there that companies can choose to do it on their own. We've elected to have an implementer guide us through the process. He's been fantastic, and it's a huge commitment. It's a huge commitment by our leadership team. It's an expense by the company to do this and time away from the office, but we're investing in the future of our business and trying to do things better. But there are so many parts of Traction that I just love, and it's really comes down to really like holding people accountable, and getting those processes in place that can help grow the business, and putting traction to the road so that you can continue to move forward in the right direction.
Yeah. So, Entrepreneurial Operating System, that's what EOS is, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the program that you're rolling out today. What does that look like logistically? Like, what exactly are you guys doing?
So it starts with your core values and your vision, right? Like you need to have everybody going in the right direction, which sounds easy. And a lot of companies will put some words to paper, and it's something great that they have on their website, but you really have to have buy-in on what that is. And so, we started in that direction. We tried to figure out like what those core values are for us. And so we actually had our core values speech rollout this week. And so our leadership team came down to, the four main core values. We have do the right thing, people and relationships, committed to excellence, and growth mindset. And so it starts with that, right people, right seats. That's, Jim Collins, Good to Great.
Yeah.
But you hire, fire, train, reward, based on those core values. But then you also you have your accountability chart, which is different than an organizational chart, but really understanding and who is accountable for what, and having those people in those seats, so to go to when things aren't necessarily going in the right direction. So we've been going through all of those things, and there's much more that's involved in it. There's all things about data and processes and simplifying and delegating. And there's so many great books that go along with it. I'm just finishing the People book, which has been a really great read. Actually, listened to it while running a few miles the other day, but good to dig into that as well too.
Oh, that's incredible. So EOS sounds like it's an incredibly robust platform, I guess, to run your entire business on, your operating system for your business. Is this the first time that you've used it?
No, I had used it at a previous company, and came over here to Schafer Richardson. And when I had started with the property management department, I attended my first team meeting, and there was just a lot of chatter in the room, but it didn't feel like we were making any progress. Everybody talks about what a waste of time meetings are, and I was just really struggling to understand what we were trying to get at in this meeting. And so immediately following the meeting, I had went to our CEO and president, who's my boss, and I just said, I used the system at my previous company. It's EOS. It's called Traction. Would you mind if I used it with my team? And he's like, you absolutely go ahead, go for it. And there's a couple other teams within the organization. They're doing it too. So we were a little backwards. Like, we had teams within our organization that were doing it, but we weren't doing it from the top down. So I rolled it out with my property management team at the time,
Oh,
went
okay.
through that whole process. And then we had made the decision as a senior leadership team that we were going to roll it out as an organization and start top down. And so we've been kind of coming from both ends at it, but now we are officially 100% going through the process, rolling it out. And I highly, highly recommend it. You immediately see, you hear a lot about IDSing. So issues is which the majority of most businesses, right, is like trying to figure out, get through the issues. And so identifying, discussing, solving issues. And that's one thing that we really struggled both on my previous property management team, but as a leadership team in the beginning, is you start talking about the issues and you think you've got to the root of the issue. And once you start really peeling back the layers of the onion, you realize that wasn't really the root of the issue. It was only a symptom.
Yeah.
And so really getting to the root of your issues and then really working as a team to solve them, and then to come up with a cohesive plan and a strategy to move forward that everybody agrees with, or that most people agree with or get on board with, so that we can make change within the organization. It's been fantastic to see.
That's so awesome. And I do believe in EOS and the methodology. But I'm going to ask you a hard question now, because you've been through it now twice, two different companies,
Yes.
kind of three times, because you implemented it
Yeah.
and now you're going full company. What are the challenges with implementing it?
I would say it's similar to any change in any organization, right? You're always going to have the skeptics,
Okay.
and so and then you have the people like, well, we tried this process 2 years ago, so what is this going to be different than this one? And we started it, and then we didn't fully roll it out. And so it's explaining to people that it takes time, and so
Yeah.
you got to get buy-in. You got to explain the why. You got to educate them on the process of it, and then you roll it out, and you have to understand too that it's going to be bumpy. One of the biggest obstacles that we had to overcome is you're not going to solve all your issues every single week.
Yeah.
So you have L10 meetings once a week, and there are people on our teams that would rate the meeting low because we only got through 2 or 3 issues.
Yeah.
Well, when they're large issues that have been sitting and stewing for years, it's going to take time to figure those out and work through them and come up with a plan together. But once they started realizing that takes time, that they started to get more buy-in, and then started seeing, as we got better as effectively communicating and discussing and solving those issues, there was more buy-in there. Now it's more rolling it out to the rest of our organization. And again, it's just the concern, and it feels overwhelming when you start talking about the terms. And we started with one software, and we're in the process of migrating to a different software, 90.io. So we've held off on a couple teams until that software migration takes place. But so getting everybody aligned all at the same time has been a little challenging, but we're starting down that road. So
Yeah. I appreciate that. I know that in a lot of transitions, I mean, some of the hardest points to overcome would be your, you know, your naysayers and your skeptics.
mhm.
And I think that, one of the best ways to push past those certain groups is to also admit that, like, you don't know everything,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're right. Like, you have every reason to be, or to have the questions that you have, and I can't answer all of them. But like we'll figure it out together as we move through this process, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and we have been fortunate, like I said, to have an implementer who's great and does a
Yeah.
great job. And he's used to dealing with the naysayers, and so he knows how to kind of push through. And he's also used to dealing with strong leaders, and
Yeah.
so he is used to pulling stuff out of all of us and having those challenging conversations to help us elevate as leaders, which will ultimately help the rest of the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of elevating as a leader, I'm going to turn the conversation just a little bit. You and I have talked about how we've grown as leaders and what we've learned at different stages in our career and different leaders that we've worked for. And you used a phrase that I absolutely loved in how you've become the leader that you've become today, that you had one of the best, worst bosses ever.
I
What
did. I
does that mean?
I did. I did. And I know you and I joked. I said I feel like I'm the parent now. It's kind of like when you're growing up and your mom tells you all of these things, and you're like, yeah, 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 until you're a mom yourself, and then it all starts to click and make sense. And I did. I had a leader, several positions back, and this person was very, very demanding, had very high standards, um, gave praise. So there was praise. I appreciated that, but it was also it could have done a better job with the feedback, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes it wasn't always the most open environment to, as we talked about, to find your voice, to ask those questions, to make suggestions. And so I like to refer to best worst boss ever. Like I learned so many great things from this person, but I also learned so many things not to do.
Yeah.
But on the same respect, as I've grown and elevated in my positions, I can see why some of the teachings that I had learned back in the day are starting to make sense to me now. Like when you have employees and you have team members and you have a whole business that you have to be accountable to, making those hard decisions that affect. Like, I mean, I take the residential transition as a case in point. That's a challenging thing to be able to tell the rest of the organization that we are going to be transitioning a whole section of our business to another company.
Yeah.
I mean, these were our teammates. They were employees that have worked really hard for us for years. And so that was a challenging piece of information to communicate to the rest of the organization. And I can only think back to this leader years ago and how the things that they said to me just made sense then. But thankfully, with our transition and with Schafer Richardson, they want to do what was right by all of those employees. We tried to make the transition as seamless as possible. We were able to move the majority of our portfolio over, and 98% of those people all had jobs at their same rate of pay with their similar benefits, and it worked out well. But it was still it just all clicked.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to be able to look back on those pre- previous experience and previous leaders that we've all had and see the positivity in it intentionally, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to leave a job and just focus on the negatives, especially if you left, willingly and you
Mm-hmm.
want to leave. It's so easy to just focus on the negatives. But I think it's so important to remember the lessons and focus on the positive. How do you personally carry those lessons with you without having that toxic feeling or
Mm.
without that negativity?
It took a while. It wasn't an immediate thing. I think it comes with emotional intelligence and growth, and it takes a while to start to kind of reframe your focus. And like I said, seeing it from a different lens. I still think there are things that could have been done differently. I also take those negatives with me as a leader and try not to do that myself, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of the same thing as parenting. Like you see the things that your parents did and wish you wouldn't do with your own kids. I'm sure my kids have their own things about me that they'll take from it too. But it's just really taking time and reflecting and growing and learning. But seeing, I mean, there was so much good and there was so much learning involved in that I think that overshadows a lot of the negativity. I just try to learn from the things that I would do differently.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And I'm actually gonna to lean in on your children for just a second because you've called yourself a bulldog mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm very interested to ask you what that exactly means.
Oh, I have a bulldog.
Oh,
Yeah.
funny. I thought you were talking about how you work your
No. I have a bulldog. I have a bulldog Chanel, and so I have my two girls, and then I have a bulldog. Which, if you're lucky, I'm not at working from home today because she sits in a chair right across from me when I work from home and snores literally all day long. So people will comment constantly on what that noise is, and I'll have to turn my camera around and show her off. But yeah.
so fun. So I was actually hoping you were going to tell me how you were able to get your daughter to have six figures in her bank account.
she's quite the miser on her own, and it took her a minute though. She actually wanted to be a criminologist, and
Oh,
so we had the benefit of having her spend a day with a criminologist because my brother is a cop, and so
oh yeah.
she got to job shadow. And same thing as real estate, right? Like the shows make it look glamorous, and she got to see some of the cases that this person was working on. And she's like, Mom, some of them involve children. And she's like, I don't know if I could handle that. And then going back to college, she's like, and this person makes how much?
Yeah.
And you make how much? And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of tough. So, I mean, when she really understood what she was signing up for, she pivoted. And same thing, like about understanding how much it costs and seeing what's in her bank account. She's funny. So
I love
yeah.
it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly, it's so impressive. So
Thanks.
she's going to listen to this episode and be like, Mom, you talked about me the whole time. And it's like, no, that was Kerri's fault.
I know. My younger daughter's gonna be like, all you did was talk about her. I know she's great too. She'll get there. She likes to spend though. She's the opposite. We have to get her in the same mindset. So
That's so funny. I have two boys, 14 and 4, and they are complete opposites of each
yeah,
other too. So
that happens.
Just a dynamic. Yeah.
That's I thought mine were a big age gap at 5 years. So 10 years, that's a
Yes.
big age gap.
Yes. I think it's two things. First, like being in my career and being in my job, I traveled a lot. And so I just don't think that I could have another one. But then when the pandemic hit and things slowed down, I was like, oh, hold on. If I'm not going to be traveling for a year or so, maybe we can have another one. So, yeah, that's been interesting. I won't be having any more. That's
Me neither.
But it was fun. So, well, Stacy, this conversation has just been so incredible. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. And before we wrap things up, I'd love to ask you two more questions.
Sure.
Okay. And I have a feeling this first one's going to be good because of all of your experience. So would you mind sharing with our listeners a story from your time in multifamily?
This was a tough one because there's so many, right? I could have picked from the vault.
Yeah.
I tried to. So I will say, when I was 21, I was managing my very first 264 unit property. I had just recently been promoted. Yes.
Wow.
So it had just recently been promoted. I just started dating my now husband. And we had experienced a huge storm in Minnesota. We had 17 inches of rain in a short amount of time, which is very unusual for us, very unusual. And so at the time we had garden level units in this property, and every single garden level unit had taken on about a foot of water. And people in the industry, they're like, yeah, that happens. Well, I called my boyfriend, now my husband, and called everybody I knew and just said, hey, my residents' apartments are flooding. Can you grab anyone with a truck, grab all your friends? I need to help my residents get whatever they can get out of their apartments. So my husband, we had been dating for I don't know at the time, a few weeks, not long. He and a bunch of his friends came with their pickups, started helping our residents move furniture out of their apartments, getting as much as they could into their trucks, and helping as much as he could through that experience. I mean, it was a multi-million-dollar loss for the property, but from that point on, and he's been that way ever since. He's always been my biggest supporter. He knows, budget season, don't even bother, just take care of dinner. When it's a rough day and I need to go for a run, he understands the business. He also is affectionately known as the trophy husband because he definitely likes to enjoy the perks of the business. But that's my story is like, I knew then if I wouldn't have married this guy, I don't know anyone else who would have put up with all the things that I've gone through in my career. So it's been great.
Oh, that's such a great story and such an incredibly supportive person. I mean, that is especially when, you don't know what everybody else is going through at that time. Like, it wasn't just your apartment community that was dealing
Yeah.
with it, but yet they all showed up. And I can
Mm-hmm.
imagine that was very entertaining for your residents to see just a
Yeah.
bunch of, like, young
Yeah.
things in their pickup trucks.
I'm sure they didn't mind.
I am assured. Oh, too funny. That's like the one time where residents would be like, thank goodness we have like a young, fun man.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know.
I love
That's
it.
good.
Yeah, like college hunks hauling junk.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. We should relive that 24 years later.
Yeah. Oh, too fun. And that's amazing that he still supports you in that way today because this industry is hard and it's taxing emotionally, mentally, sometimes physically. It's taxing.
Yes. Yeah, he does. He does a nice job of that. I
Okay, but I want
appreciate
to
it.
ask, what are these perks that this trophy has been?
Oh, yes. Well, you go to conferences he'd come with, and
Mm,
he also, so I've been doing this so long, like he's made a lot of friends and acquaintances in our industry. So
okay.
we'll go to industry events, and like he'll know more people sometimes than I do. And they actually they'll be like, "It's Trophy Husband." They all refer to him as Trophy Husband because that's what I do too. So
Oh,
so it's been fun. It's good. It's good fun.
well,
We enjoy it.
I hope I run into you at a conference sometime and I get
Yes,
to know
yes.
who that man
He's
is.
been to NAA many times, so.
I love it. Maybe next year. Awesome. Well, Stacey, my final question for you would be, do you have a book that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
I do. So one of my very favorite books, which is a short, quick read, which I appreciate, is Great Leaders Make Sure Monday Morning Doesn't Suck by Eric Harkins. So I did have to read that off a piece of paper because it's a very long title.
Yes.
But I will warn people that there are some colorful words that start with the letter F and end with a K. So if you are easily offended, this may not be the book for you. But what I really appreciate is, the whole preface of it is if your employees dread coming to work on Monday or have the Sunday scaries and you're doing it wrong. I love, he says, culture is what you tolerate. And, high performers don't need to be micromanaged. They need to be inspired. So just there, I mean, it's just a really quick, fun, witty read. And it's just really like gets to the point of like, don't be that horrible boss, and gives you, ideas and suggestions on things you can do to inspire your team and create a higher culture. So highly recommend it.
Oh, I love that. And the F word does not offend me at all. So we're good there. In fact, I'm not going to win any Mother of the Year awards for this, but my 3-year-old, he was almost 4, but he was 3. We actually had a tornado pass like over our house area. No, we were not in any danger. But it did cause, it was like the middle of the day. We were outside playing in the pool, and all of a sudden, we heard the sirens, and I had been monitoring the weather. But I was like, okay, well, just in case, let's go inside. And it went from being like really gorgeous outside to like black. It was like nighttime, and the winds were whipping, and the rain came, and it just like transitioned so quickly. And so my oldest son had 3 friends over for a pool party, and then my youngest was just playing with them. And I made them all get into this bathroom that's on our first floor. And and so the wind got really bad. It got really crazy, and my 3-year-old came walking out of the bathroom and looked out the windows, and he was like, "Oh, fuck." He just like died laughing. And then I was like, okay, well, we're going to enjoy this moment. Everybody's going to laugh. Of course, like my 14-year-old friends thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. So like we're all just dying laughing. And then we're like, okay, we have to have a conversation about where we do and don't use this word, how people get offended by it. It was so funny. So sorry. That's such
I
a
love it. I love it. Well, it's like Ralphie and a Christmas Story, but yes, yeah, there's some of that language that's used, but it's a good read. I personally enjoyed it for that reason. Like, let's just be real. Like, come on. If
yeah.
you don't say that at least 3 times a day in this business, I don't know how you get through. So.
Same. Could not agree more. In fact, we utilized the F in the Fortress logo, and
Yeah.
we have books. I think I've got one right here, actually. Yeah. So it says like be effing awesome.
Oh,
So
I
yeah,
love it.
we lean into the F a little bit around here. So so that's so funny. But that does sound like an amazing book. Like I always tell my team, I love Mondays just as much as I love Fridays. Like that's what I always say, because like I'm always excited for a fresh week to start. I'm always excited for the weekend to have some downtime with my kids, but I'm always excited for another week to start. And I love this like concept of ensuring that your entire company feels that same way. I think that's awesome. So this will
Yes,
definitely be
check it
going on
out.
next to read list.
Love it. Love it.
Well, Stacey, that was such a great recommendation. This has been such a great conversation. Not only has it been informative and educational, I've also just had a lot of fun because
Yeah, me too.
I called you a bulldog mom and you're literally a very great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. So I hope you did as well. And thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Multifamily Grit. I hope you enjoyed hearing Stacy Ekholm's incredible journey. Her story is such a powerful reminder that confidence grows from curiosity, that the best teams are built on trust, not ego, and that leadership with humility and heart can transform both people and organizations. We also want to give one more shout out to Fortress, our episode sponsor. Fortress is committed to revolutionizing affordable property management with smarter, more efficient solutions that keep communities thriving. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with a colleague who would enjoy Stacy's insights on leadership, resilience, and embracing growth through authenticity and vision. Until next time, stay gritty, stay passionate, and we'll see you back here soon.